Hey y'all, I am in the kitchen. I have decided for dinner that I'm going to try to make a cast iron skillet pizza. I have a bunch of ingredients that I had on hand and was trying to figure out what I wanted to make for dinner tonight, so we're going to try this. Never done it before, but this is some of the ingredients that I'm going to use. I have some flour and some yeast, and this is the instant quick rise yeast, so I won't have to let the dough rise too long. I'll probably let it rise for about 20 minutes. I have an onion. I had some fresh green peppers in the freezer from the garden last year. I have some hamburger meat that I'm going to defrost, some pepperonis, mozzarella, some homemade canned sauce that I'll be adding some seasonings. These are my garden fresh basil and my homemade Italian seasoning. So I'm going to get started on the dough, and I will bring you back after I get that going. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is prepare my yeast, and by doing that, what we're going to do is add 1 3/4 cup of warm water to a mixing bowl. And then we're going to add 1 pack of our quick rise yeast. And then we're going to add 1 tablespoon of granulated sugar. And then what we're going to do is we're going to mix this up. And we're going to get all that good and incorporated before we add our other ingredients. You want to get that yeast active. So I'm going to continue to mix this, and then we will add our other stuff. So the yeast mixture is now activating, and what I'm going to do is just cover this up and let it rest for 5 minutes. Now that the yeast is active, I'm going to add 3½ cups of flour, a teaspoon, or actually 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. I don't think I need a full teaspoon. And we're going to add 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And then what we're going to do is we're going to mix this very well, and then we're going to knead it. So I have the dough all thoroughly mixed up, and you can use a stand mixer for this, but I just use a wooden spoon. It's easier for me to do that than to drag out big equipment for this. So I have my dough mixed up, and then next what I'm going to do, sorry guys, I have little puppies in the background. On a floured surface, you're going to want to knead your dough for about 3 or 4 minutes. So I'm going to get started doing that. Okay, so there's my dough after kneading it. And to know if it's ready to rise, all you have to do is poke a little hole with your finger, and if it comes back into place slowly, then it's ready to rise. So it looks like we're ready. I'm going to add a little olive oil on there and just rub that on there, and then we're going to transfer into our bowl. It's still sticking a little bit. Alright, there we go. Okay, so we're going to transfer it into our bowl, and we're going to cover this, and I'm going to let this rise for about an hour. I wasn't going to let it rise that long, but I am doing a deep dish pizza, and I have the meat and stuff to make, so I'm gonna cover this and let this sit for about 60 minutes. Okay, so while our dough is rising, I am cooking the hamburger meat, and I have added some of my Italian seasoning and some garlic powder to this. I also have the onions and the green peppers, which I'm getting ready to add in as well. And then back here is that beautiful sauce. It's got Italian seasoning, garden basil, and garlic, a little salt, pepper, and don't that just look wonderful? And that's all from my fresh tomatoes last year. So I'm gonna keep going with this, and I will be back in just a few. Okay, I have the meat drained, and then now I've just added the green peppers and the onions by themselves because it still had a little grease in the pan, and I do not want grease on my pizza. So I'm just sweating these out. I don't want them all the way cooked thoroughly. I don't want them like sauteed. I still want a little bite to them and flavor. So I'm just going to sweat these out a little bit, and that will be done. And I'm going to preheat the oven and get it ready because we will need to ParBake our crust. Okay, so it looks like our dough is ready to go into the pan. It has risen, not double, but almost there. It looks pretty good. So over here I have the cast iron skillet that I sprayed with a little bit of Pam all around the edges because I want to do a deep dish crust. And then also I added a little bit of cornmeal mix. I was out of just regular cornmeal, but I have cornmeal mix, so I did put a little on the bottom just to give that extra crunch to the bottom of the crust. So I'm going to go ahead and transfer the dough in there, and I will be back. Also, I have the pizza crust ready to go into the oven on 450 for about 7 minutes to go ahead and let it ParBake. You have to work your dough around the edges, so it's a little tedious, but you can just work it to where it's kind of evened out everywhere, and then kind of roll your edges like so. It's not going to be perfect, but I bet it's going to taste good. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and ParBake this, and I will be back when it's done. So that's what the crust looks like when it comes out of the oven. Look how fluffy that is. That is a thick crust. I wish I would have made it a little thinner, but it is a deep dish. So I'm going to start adding the toppings. So our pizza is now ready to go in the oven. I have it fully loaded, and what I did is for the crust, I melted some butter and garlic and fresh parsley and brushed the whole edges, and then added some grated Parmesan. So y'all, I hope this turns out good. It sure does look good. I will bring you back when it's done. I'm going to bake it on 450 for probably about 25 minutes. I'm going to keep an eye on it, and I will let you know how long it takes. Okay guys, so it took about 17 minutes in my oven, and it looks like it turned out perfect. So you'll have to adjust your own oven temps when making this. If you decide to make this, you'll just have to judge according to how hot your oven gets. Mine gets extremely hot. So another about 17 minutes after we ParBaked. So I'm going to let this sit and rest, and we will cut a piece and see what it looks like. Alright y'all, there is our piece of pizza. Everything turned out perfect. The dough is just right. The cheese is all good and melted, and it's loaded with toppings. So I am so glad that this turned out good, and I hope you guys enjoyed this recipe. And I will be sure to put the ingredients and times in the description, and I will see you on the next video. Have a blessed day.